She did not carry a crown, she did not command an army by rank or lineage, she could not read or write, and yet kings listened when she spoke. In a time when France was bleeding itself dry, when villages burned and hope had thinned to rumor, a teenage girl stepped forward and said something almost unthinkable: "God has sent me." Her name was Jeanne d'Arc. Jeanne d'Arc, also known as the Maid of Orleans, is believed to have been born on January 6, 1412, in the small village of Domremy, on the fringes of a kingdom fractured by war. France was locked in the 100 Years' War against England, a conflict that had already lasted generations. The country was divided, demoralized, and leaderless in spirit. Large parts of northern France were under English control, and the French crown itself seemed close to extinction. Jeanne grew up poor, rural, and deeply religious. She tended sheep, helped her family, and absorbed the rhythms of village life. She was not educated in the formal sense, but she knew the prayers of the church, the stories of saints, and the fear that hung over the countryside. Soldiers passed through, refugees fled. News of defeat was constant. Then, around the age of 13, Jeanne began to experience what she would later describe as voices. She claimed they came from saints, Michael the Archangel, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. They told her that France must be saved, that the English must be driven out, and that she, Jeanne, had been chosen to help restore the rightful king. At first, she resisted. She was young, female, and unknown. The task was absurd, but the voices persisted. By 1428, France's situation had grown desperate. The English were laying siege to Orleans, a critical city whose fall could open the path to total defeat. The Dauphin, Charles, heir to the French throne, was isolated and uncertain, his legitimacy questioned, his confidence fragile. Jeanne believed she had been sent to him. She traveled to Vaucouleurs, a local stronghold, and demanded an audience with the Dauphin. She was mocked, dismissed, and told to return home, but she refused to leave. She spoke with conviction, predicted military outcomes, and carried herself with an unshakable certainty that unsettled even hardened soldiers. Eventually, she was granted an escort. In early 1429, Jeanne arrived at Charles's court in Chinon. According to later accounts, Charles tested her by disguising himself among courtiers. Jeanne identified him immediately. Whether by intuition, information, or coincidence, the moment became legend. She told him she had been sent by God to lift the siege of Orleans and crown him king. Against all reason, and perhaps because reason had failed him, Charles listened. Jeanne was given armor, a banner bearing religious imagery, and a place with the army. She did not wield a sword in battle as a commander might, but she rode with the troops, carried her banner into danger, and inspired discipline and morale where none had existed. At Orleans, something remarkable happened. The French attacked. Against expectations, the siege was broken in May 1429. Jeanne was wounded by an arrow, but returned to the field. Her presence transformed the army's spirit. Soldiers believed God was with them. Momentum shifted. Victories followed. Within months, Jeanne led the campaign that cleared the route to Reims, the traditional site of French coronations. In July 1429, Charles was crowned King Charles VII of France. Jeanne stood nearby, her mission, at least the one she believed most important, fulfilled. She had done the impossible. But history rarely rewards miracles with peace. After the coronation, Jeanne urged Charles to continue pressing the advantage. Instead, the court hesitated. Political caution replaced momentum. Alliances mattered more than visions. Jeanne's influence waned. In 1430, during a skirmish near Compiègne, Jeanne was captured by Burgundian forces allied with the English. She was not treated as a prisoner of war, she was treated as a problem. The English could not afford to let her live as a symbol. A peasant girl claiming divine guidance threatened not just military control, but religious authority. So they put her on trial, not for rebellion, but for heresy. The trial, held in Rouen, was deeply flawed. It was conducted by clerics loyal to England. Jeanne was denied proper legal counsel. She was interrogated relentlessly, often trapped in theological questions designed to condemn her no matter how she answered. She answered with startling clarity. When asked whether she was in God's grace, she replied, "If I am not, may God put me there, and if I am, may God keep me there." It was an answer scholars still admire. Her greatest crime became her refusal to submit her visions entirely to church authority. She insisted that her voices came directly from God. That claim was intolerable. She was condemned. On May 30th, 1431, Jeanne d'Arc was burned at the stake. She was 19 years old. Eyewitnesses reported that she called out the name of Jesus as the flames rose. A cross was held before her. When it was over, her ashes were thrown into the Seine, ensuring no relics could remain. The English believed they had erased her. They were wrong. Within decades, the tide of the war turned. France regained its territory. In 1456, a retrial authorized by Charles VII overturned Jeanne's conviction, declaring her innocent and a martyr. In 1920, nearly 5 centuries after her death, Jeanne d'Arc was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church. But her legacy reaches far beyond religion. She became a symbol of national identity, of resistance against overwhelming odds, of conviction without power. She has been claimed by monarchists and republicans, believers and skeptics, feminists and traditionalists alike. And yet the historical Jeanne d'Arc remains elusive. She was not a general in the modern sense. She did not design strategy. She did not rule. Her power lay somewhere harder to define, in belief, in presence, in the ability to make others act when fear had frozen them. Jeanne d'Arc forces an uncomfortable question. What happens when certainty walks into a broken world? Was she a mystic, a visionary, a victim of politics, a tool of forces larger than herself, or something rarer, a person whose faith aligned briefly and explosively with history's need? Perhaps the answer is all of it. She arrived when France needed belief more than plans. She disappeared when belief became inconvenient. And she endured because stories, once ignited, refused to burn away. Jeanne d'Arc did not live long, but for a moment she bent the course of a nation. And centuries later, her voice, whatever its origin, still echoes. Not because she claimed certainty, but because she acted on it.